The Valiant Brothers' name comes with a long list of wrestlers they absolutely hated. And believe me, this list is as dramatic as it gets. So let's jump right in and find out who made it to their hate list and why. 1. Tony Garea and Dean Ho. Back in the mid-1970s, Tony Garea and Dean Ho were one of the most beloved teams in the WWF. They were fan favorites for all the right reasons: clean-cut, hardworking, and humble inside and outside the ring. But that image of perfection didn't sit well with the Valiant brothers. Jimmy and Johnny Valiant were loud, brash, and unapologetically arrogant. They prided themselves on being the complete opposite of the good guy heroes the fans loved. So when they crossed paths with Garea and Ho, it wasn't just a rivalry over the tag team titles, it was a clash of two very different worlds. Things started to heat up in 1974 when the Valiants challenged Garea and Ho for the WWF World Tag Team Championship. Garea and Ho had the crowd on their side, but the Valiants had something even stronger: a hunger to make history. They were willing to bend the rules, twist the story, and do whatever it took to walk out as champions. To them, it wasn't cheating, it was strategy. The fans, of course, saw it differently. Every underhanded move, every distraction, every cheap shot only made the audience love Garea and Ho even more, and that infuriated the Valiant brothers. When the Valiants finally defeated Garea and Ho to start their record-breaking 370-day reign, it wasn't just a win, it was a statement. They wanted to prove that charisma and cunning could outshine clean wrestling and sportsmanship. But behind the scenes, there was real tension. Garea and Ho, who believed in traditional wrestling ethics, reportedly weren't fond of how the Valiants operated. The matches grew increasingly stiff, with both teams trying to outdo the other, not just in performance, but in pride. For the Valiant brothers, the victory cemented their legacy, but it also sparked a deep-rooted resentment toward the duo they dethroned. 2. MSG Dominic Denucci and Victor Rivera. Dominic Denucci and Victor Rivera were the ones who finally did what so many teams had failed to do. They brought down the mighty Valiant brothers. When they defeated Jimmy and Johnny in 1975 to end their incredible 370-day championship reign, it wasn't just a title change, it was personal. To the Valiants, that loss cut deep. They weren't just losing gold, they were losing the validation that kept their egos fed. And the fact that it was Denucci and Rivera who took it from them made it even harder to swallow. Dominic Denucci was a respected veteran, known for his calm demeanor and disciplined wrestling style. Victor Rivera, on the other hand, was fiery, athletic, and had a strong connection with fans, especially among the growing Latin American audience. Together, they made a powerful, well-balanced team, one that combined technical precision with energy and charisma. To the fans, they were everything a tag team should be. But to the Valiants, they were a threat from the moment they stepped into the picture. The Valiant brothers prided themselves on being larger-than-life showmen who could control the ring and the crowd with pure personality. But Denucci and Rivera didn't play their game. They didn't respond to the taunts. They didn't get rattled by the antics. And they certainly didn't cheat to win. That infuriated Jimmy and Johnny, who lived off getting under their opponent's skin. In their minds, Denucci and Rivera were too self-righteous, the kind of wrestlers who believed good morals and fair play should win matches. For the Valiants, wrestling was about entertainment and dominance, not handshakes and smiles. When Denucci and Rivera finally dethroned them, the Valiants didn't just see it as a loss. They saw it as an embarrassment. They believed they had carried the tag division on their backs, bringing attention and money wherever they went. Losing to two straight-laced, rule-following babyfaces felt like a slap in the face. Behind the scenes, that bitterness was real. The Valiants reportedly felt that the company wanted safe champions again, guys who could represent the clean image the WWF liked to promote. From that point on, the resentment only grew. The Valiants viewed Denucci and Rivera as the faces of a system that never fully appreciated their star power. Even years later, they'd bring up that loss with a mix of frustration and pride. Pride in how long they reigned, and frustration that two men they considered boring heroes were the ones to end it. It was the kind of grudge that stuck with the Valiants long after the spotlight faded. 3. Jick the Bruiser and Bruno Sammartino. In the early days of their career, the Valiant brothers found themselves standing across the ring from two absolute legends, Dick the Bruiser and Bruno Sammartino. These weren't just ordinary opponents. They were wrestling icons, men who symbolized toughness, honor, and raw power. For Jimmy and Johnny Valiant, still trying to make a name for themselves, it was both an opportunity and a nightmare. Facing that duo meant stepping into the lion's den. And when the Valiants somehow managed to beat them for the WWA World Tag Team Championship, the tension that followed was unforgettable. Dick the Bruiser was known for his brawling style, his short temper, and his take-no-nonsense attitude. Bruno Sammartino, on the other hand, was the ultimate symbol of integrity, the people's champion, beloved by fans all around the world. Together, they were nearly untouchable. But the Valiant brothers thrived on chaos. They weren't out to win clean or earn respect. They wanted to make headlines, anger fans, and prove that charisma could be just as powerful as brute strength. Their victories over Bruiser and Sammartino weren't just surprising, they were shocking. And they didn't happen without controversy. The matches between them were intense, physical, and often ended in absolute pandemonium. The Valiants would use every trick in the book, distractions, sneak attacks, pulling the referee's attention away, whatever it took to walk out with the belts. To the fans, it was infuriating. To Bruiser and Bruno, it was personal. They hated the idea of being outsmarted by two men who treated wrestling like a circus act. Every time the Valiants gloated on the microphone or strutted around the ring like untouchable superstars, it added fuel to the fire. Behind the scenes, there was mutual dislike too. The Bruiser's rough reputation meant he didn't respect wrestlers who he thought relied too much on flash over fighting. Sammartino, known for his professionalism, reportedly didn't appreciate the Valiant's tendency to blur the lines between performance and disrespect. But for the Valiant brothers, that was exactly what they wanted, to get under the skin of wrestling's most respected men and make sure everyone remembered their names. 4. Chief Jay Strongbow. Chief Jay Strongbow was one of the most respected and beloved wrestlers in the WWF, and that alone made him a natural enemy of the Valiant brothers. Jimmy and Johnny thrived on being the bad guys, the loud, arrogant villains who fans loved to hate. Strongbow was everything they weren't. He was calm, proud, and deeply connected to the audience, someone who carried himself with dignity both inside and outside the ring. Every time he stepped into the ring with the Valiants, the atmosphere changed. The crowd would erupt in cheers for Strongbow, and that roar only fueled the brothers' resentment. The feud between them was one of the defining storylines of the time. Strongbow often teamed up with other popular names like Bruno Sammartino, creating dream matchups that filled arenas. But behind those big matches was real heat. The Valiants hated how the fans worshipped Strongbow, no matter what he did. Even on nights when the brothers outperformed him, the cheers still went to Strongbow. That kind of crowd loyalty got under their skin. They felt like no matter how much they entertained or how many titles they won, they'd never get the respect that wrestlers like Strongbow got just by showing up. In the ring, Strongbow's style clashed perfectly with theirs. He was methodical and serious, while the Valiants were unpredictable and over the top. They'd taunt him, mock his Native American heritage, and even imitate his war dance just to draw boos from the crowd. Strongbow, known for his fiery comebacks, would take their abuse until he finally exploded with those powerful chops and headlocks that sent the arena into chaos. The chemistry was undeniable, but so was the hatred. The Valiants saw him as a symbol of everything they wanted to destroy, the wholesome hero who always got the glory. Off-screen, there was a professional rivalry too. The Valiants believed that Strongbow's backstage influence helped keep him in main events, while they had to work twice as hard to stay relevant. They didn't just dislike him, they envied the level of respect he commanded in the locker room. To them, he represented the old-school idea of what a good guy in wrestling was supposed to be, and they made it their mission to tear that image apart every time they faced him. 5. Putsky and Santana. By the late 1970s, the Valiant Brothers were already infamous for their loud mouths, wild antics, and ruthless ring style. But when the second version of the team, Johnny and Jerry Valiant, ran into Ivan Putsky and Santana, things got personal fast. Putsky and Santana were two of the most beloved baby faces in the WWF, representing everything the fans adored: power, pride, and pure heart. The Valiants, of course, couldn't stand that. To them, Putsky and Santana weren't just opponents. They were reminders that no matter how entertaining or talented the villains were, the fans would always side with the good guys. When Johnny and Jerry lost the WWF Tag Team Championship to Putsky and Santana in 1979, it was a bitter pill to swallow. That loss didn't just end a title reign, it shattered their confidence and bruised their egos. They believed they carried the tag division, that their charisma and chaos had made the titles matter again. So when two fan favorites took the belts from them, it felt like a betrayal by both the company and the audience. They thought the spotlight they'd fought so hard to earn was being handed over to a pair of safe champions who fit the heroic mold better. The matches between the two teams were fiery and emotional. Putsky was a powerhouse, built like a tank and fueled by the energy of the crowd. Santana was fast, smart, and full of passion, bringing youth and excitement to every bout. The Valiants despised that combination. They couldn't rattle Santana's composure or overpower Putsky's strength, no matter how many tricks they pulled. And every time the fans erupted for their opponents, the frustration grew. The more loved Putsky and Santana became, the more bitter the Valiants got. Behind the curtain, the rivalry wasn't just about who was better in the ring, it was about identity. The Valiant Brothers saw themselves as the showmen who built tag team wrestling into something special. They were loud, colorful, and fearless. Putsky and Santana, in their eyes, were too polished, too predictable. They thought they were watching the sport they helped shape turn into something sanitized and corporate. Losing to them felt like being replaced, like the end of an era they had helped define. And that wraps up today's video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on our latest updates.